new regulations proposed for Maine's lobster fishery are the subject of major controversy. Some say they will help bolster the right whale's recovery, but lobstermen and state officials say they could destroy the lobster industry. In part 2 of our series Tangled, we dive into the data surrounding whale deaths and entanglements. NOAA called it an unusual mortality event. 17 right whales died in 2017, 3 in 2018, and 10 in 2019. The deadliest years were 2017 and 2019, and NOAA concedes the majority of those deaths were attributed to entanglement in Canadian snow crab gear and vessel strikes. Canadian gear was also blamed for a whale death in 2021, and ship strikes killed whales in 2020 and 2021 as well.
It gets back to the Endangered Species Act that they look at every rope as having some level of risk.
Statistics like that are why Commissioner Kelleher and lobstermen argue that too much responsibility is being placed on Maine's lobster fishery. They say the death of a right whale has never been directly attributed to Maine lobster gear, and there has only been one entanglement associated with Maine gear since 2002.
So they attribute risk to the Maine fishery because we've got upwards of 90% of the end lines within the region.
NOAA declined our request for an interview but provided information. They say they've documented 3 live entangled right whales in 2002, 2003, and 2004 attributed to Maine gear. All 3 whales survived. NOAA also states that, quote, "We have not positively identified any gear recovered from a dead right whale as Maine lobster gear," end quote.
Our buoy markings, our license numbers are on the buoys. Our ropes are marked with colors. Our traps, if there's a trap attached to a whale, has our identification numbers in it. So if it's entangled with something, you should be able to trace it back.
NOAA does point out that their experts can only assign entanglements to specific fisheries when there is enough evidence to do so, which isn't always the case. When there isn't, the death is categorized as unknown. NOAA assigns the U.S. and Canada 50% each of unknown entanglements.
We think it is unproportionately allocated to the U.S. based on the data and based on the known entanglements. You know, they need to step back from that and take another hard look at it.
It's simply not true that the U.S. fisheries and Maine lobster fisheries are not part of the problem.
Both NOAA and conservationists point out that even when a whale survives an entanglement, it can still be negatively impacted.
Scientists have determined that the stress and other impacts from an entanglement event can cause a whale to not be able to reproduce or to reduce the chances that the whale will successfully reproduce.
And what about ship strikes? Right whales are also injured and killed via blunt force trauma from contact with a ship's hull, or they sustain lacerations from contact with the propeller. Rules governing ship speed have helped, but a report from NOAA shows compliance is a problem.
Vessel strikes, there are rules around vessel strikes. Many of the rules are voluntary. Right, everything that we're doing here within the U.S. fisheries deals with compliance. If a fisherman makes a mistake, there are consequences, and the same should be held true for the shipping industry.
I think we need to be looking at both threats, both entanglement in commercial fishing gear and vessel strikes. Both are causes of mortality, serious injury, and other types of harm to the species.
Well, in tomorrow's final segment, we look at the potentially severe impact to Maine businesses related to the lobster industry and what Maine officials say about being cut out of talks with Canada.